The transport ship landed softly on the silver ground of the alien world. A young human man named Tom stepped out, blinking against the pale blue light that covered the skies of planet Yora. He had only recently completed his basic training as an explorer and had been assigned to the Yora Project, a peaceful mission of communication and learning between humans and the native Aryans. Tom was not a soldier or a scientist. He was just someone who had always been curious about stars, planets, and the beings that might live out there. This was his first real assignment, and he wanted to make a good impression. As he stepped down from the ramp, he saw a group of tall, graceful figures waiting near a glowing path. They had pale skin with patterns like vines across their arms and long hair that moved gently even when there was no wind. Their large eyes glowed faintly, not with light, but with curiosity. One of them stepped forward. She was taller than Tom by a head. Her hair was silver blue, and her robe was stitched with small beads that shimmered like tiny moons. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were full of questions. She placed her hand over her chest, a sign of welcome in her culture. "I am Rena, speaker for the House of Wind," she said, her voice light but clear. "You are the human explorer?" Tom nodded and placed his hand over his chest in return. "Yes, I'm Tom. I'm honored to be here," the other Aryans whispered softly among themselves. Rena tilted her head. "We have studied your kind from far, but never this close." "You are different from what I imagined," Tom smiled. "Different can be good. I hope you'll like humans more the closer you look." She gave a small nod and turned. "Follow me. You will stay in the Hall of Learning. That is where we keep the questions of the past and the answers of the future." As they walked through the quiet city, Tom noticed that there were no vehicles or loud machines. Everything felt calm, peaceful. The buildings were shaped like tall shells, with soft light shining through the walls. There were small gardens everywhere, full of flowers he had never seen. Inside the Hall of Learning, the ceiling stretched high above. Strange shapes floated in the air. Not machines, but living lights that glided like jellyfish. Tom's room was simple but comfortable, with soft cushions, a round sleeping mat, and a screen that showed scenes from Earth. Later that day, Rena returned. She entered quietly, holding a glowing crystal in one hand. She sat down across from Tom. "I have questions," she said. "If I ask too much, you may stop me. But it is our way to learn from those who come from beyond." Tom nodded. "You can ask anything." Rena leaned forward. "Your body is not like ours. It is shaped differently. It has strength in places we do not, your arms and legs. For example, they carry weight and move with speed. Our people have not developed for strength, but for balance." She reached into her satchel and pulled out a sketch of the human body, drawn from the learning screens. "You call this the chest. It rises and falls. Why does it move so?" Tom explained about breathing, lungs, and how the human body pulls in oxygen. Rena listened carefully, nodding. "Slowly, air is food for the body. And the heart, it pushes red fluid through lines. That is what gives you color." "Yes," Tom said. "Our heart pumps blood through veins. It keeps everything alive." She seemed fascinated. "And your voice, it is not the same as ours. Ours comes from our minds more than our mouths. Yours uses sound waves." "That's right. We speak with our throats and shape words with our mouths." Rena tilted her head again. "There are so many differences. Yet we both think. We both dream. We both wonder." Tom smiled. "That's what makes this meeting so special." Suddenly, a chime echoed in the hall. Rena stood. "It is the hour of rest. Tomorrow, I will ask more. Will that be all right?" Tom nodded. "Yes, I'm ready to learn too." She paused at the door. "You are not what I expected, Tom. I thought humans would be loud, proud, and full of war. But you are kind. You listen. You explain." Tom stood, not knowing what to say. So he simply said, "Thank you." As Rena left, Tom sat back on the mat and looked up at the strange floating lights above. He had come expecting cold science and data. Instead, he had found warmth, questions, and someone who truly wanted to understand. He didn't know where this mission would lead, but he was no longer nervous. He felt like he belonged. And deep in the corridors of the hall, Rena spoke softly to another Auroran. This human. He is not just different, he is important. The sun on planet Yor rose in soft waves of light, changing from silver to gentle gold as morning spread across the skies. Tom woke up feeling rested. The air smelled sweet, like fresh leaves after rain. He stretched and looked around the quiet room, remembering where he was. It wasn't Earth. It wasn't like any place he had known. But he was beginning to feel at ease. After a light breakfast made from blue fruits and soft bread, Tom stepped outside. The gardens of the Hall of Learning were calm. With crystal trees that bent toward the light, Aaron's walked silently along. The stone paths, some of them nodding politely to Tom. He could feel their eyes, full of curiosity, as if each of them held a silent question they hadn't yet asked. Soon, Rena appeared. She walked lightly, her robe trailing behind her like a moving shadow. In one hand she carried a scroll made of thin metal strands, glowing softly. "Good morning, Tom." She said. "Morning, Rena," he replied. "More questions today." She nodded. "Many, if you are willing." Tom smiled. "I'm here to share." They walked together to a round room in the garden. It was open to the sky, with soft cushions placed in a circle. In the center stood a round table, and on it sat several small glowing shapes that moved when touched. Tom learned they were used for teaching and storing memory. Rena unrolled her metal scroll. "I have chosen simple things to start with. Then, we can explore more." She pointed to a diagram. "These are your hands. You have 5 fingers on each. That is not common here." "Why 5? Tom looked at his own hands and chuckled. "Honestly, I don't know. Maybe nature just found 5 useful. We can hold things, build, shape tools." Rena reached into her satchel and pulled out a small stone bowl. She offered it to Tom. "Can you show me how you use them?" Tom took the bowl in one hand and passed it to the other, then held it with both. "Like this. I can grip it, pass it, throw it, even carve something with it." Rena watched closely. "So your fingers are for control, not just for touch." "Exactly," Tom said. "Our hands helped us grow smarter. We made fire, houses, machines, all because of hands and the brain behind them." Rena set the bowl down and leaned forward. "Your legs, you walk with strength and speed. You can climb, you can run long distances. Our kind is slower." Tom nodded. "We learned to chase animals long ago. Not the fastest, but we could keep going for ours. That made us different from others on Earth." Rena looked thoughtful. "So, humans are shaped by movement, by using their bodies." "Yes," Tom replied. "Even now, we build machines, but we still move. Some people climb mountains, dive into oceans, or walk through deserts." She tilted her head. "And pain, you feel it when hurt?" "Yes," he said. "Pain tells us something is wrong. It protects us, but it also teaches." Rena stood and walked to a nearby tree. She touched its leaves gently, and they glowed under her fingers. "We do not chase or hunt. We grow. We feel emotions in our minds, but we never trained our bodies for the kind of world you lived in." Tom stepped beside her. "That's the beauty of it. We came from different paths, but we both reached the stars." She looked up at him. "That is why your body seems strange to us. Not bad, just built for struggle, shaped by the need to survive." Tom smiled. "And yet here we are, sharing thoughts under the same sky." They sat back down. Rena touched one of the glowing shapes on the table. A picture of Earth appeared in the air. Mountains, rivers, forests, and deserts. "I studied your world," she said. "There's fire and snow, life in every corner, and humans live in all of it. We had to." Tom replied. "Earth is wild, but we learned to live with it." She turned toward him. "That is what I want to understand most. How did your kind move from caves to stars? What pushed you forward?" Tom looked at the image. Curiosity, fear, hope, maybe all of them, but mostly the need to go further, even when things were hard. "We kept walking." Rena nodded slowly. "There's a lesson in that. We errands are peaceful, but we did not explore like you did. We waited. We watched the sky, but we never reached for it." You reached out now, Tom said. That's what matters. She paused, then spoke carefully. Samarans worry about humans. You grow fast. You change things. You come with power. Tom looked into her eyes. I understand. We've made mistakes. We've hurt each other. But we also build, heal, and protect. That's why I'm here. Not to control, but to learn with you. Rena smiled gently. I believe you. I see no danger in your eyes. A soft bell rang in the distance. Rena stood. The midnight meal is ready. Will you join us in the great circle? Tom stood beside her. Of course. I'd like to meet more of your people. As they walked, Rena spoke again. Tomorrow, we will speak of your inner systems, the mind, the heart, the thoughts that rise and fall like the tide. Tom laughed softly. That might be harder to explain, but still worth trying, she said as they reached the great hall where other errands waited. Tom felt something shift inside him. This mission was not just about showing who humans were. It was about seeing others clearly and being seen. In return, and in that moment, beneath the glowing sky, a quiet bond had begun to grow, built not with machines or treaties, but with open questions and honest answers. Part 3 will continue when you're ready. Let me know and I'll write the next 1,000 words in the same simple, engaging, clean style. The sky over planet Yora was soft with color, a pale purple that faded into the high clouds. It was quiet except for the gentle sound of moving air and the soft hum of energy. Passing through the great trees of the city, Tom sat outside the hall of learning on a smooth stone bench. He was waiting for Rena. He had been on Yora for 5 days now. Every day had brought a new lesson, a new set of questions, and a growing friendship between him and the curious alien woman. Tom had expected science talks and formal meetings. Instead, he had found peaceful walks, deep conversations, and moments that felt more like stories than study. Rena appeared, carrying another scroll made from light metal threads. Her eyes were calm, but her steps were quick, as if she had been thinking all morning. Today we speak of the mind, she said as she sat beside him. I have studied your thoughts, your memory, your heart, not the one that beats, but the one that feels. Tom nodded. That's harder to explain than muscles or lungs. She smiled. Still, we will try. They moved to the inner garden where the light fell through crystal branches above, around them. The air was filled with the gentle sound of leaves brushing each other. Rena placed the scroll in the center of a low table, and it opened with a soft hum. A moving image appeared, a human brain, pulsing gently with color. Small sparks ran through it, showing connections. This is what we have learned about your mind, she said. Your thoughts move like lightning, across paths inside your head. Memory lives in layers, feelings mixed with reason. Tom nodded. Yes, we still don't understand everything, but we know the brain controls everything. Walking, talking, remembering, dreaming. Rena touched the image. Your kind has both logic and emotion. You can solve hard problems and still cry over music. Tom looked at her. That's true. Sometimes we cry even when we don't know why. Rena leaned forward. That is what makes you interesting. Most creatures either survive or feel. Humans do both. Your mind is not just a machine. It is a story. Tom thought for a moment. We remember pain. We remember joy. We carry both with us. Even when years pass, a smell or a word can bring back an old moment. Rena closed her eyes. We errands have memory too, but not the same way. Our minds are quiet. We release pain so it does not follow us. But maybe that is why we do not move forward as fast. You choose peace over growth, Tom said gently. That's not a bad thing. But you carry fire inside, Rena replied. And that fire drives you to change the world. She looked at him closely. Have you ever been angry? Yes, Tom answered. Many times. Anger can push people to stand up when something is wrong, but it can also hurt others if it grows too much. And love? She asked softly. Tom nodded. Love is stronger than anger. It pulls people together, makes them protect each other. It can give meaning to a life. Rena's voice was quiet. Do you love your people? Yes, Tom said. Even when we make mistakes, I believe we can do better. Rena looked into the sky for a long moment. And what do you fear? Tom hesitated. Losing those I care about. Not being understood. Making the wrong choice. Rena turned back. To him, that is the human heart, not the one that beats, the one that feels. Tom placed a hand on his chest. We sometimes say we feel something in our heart, but it's really in the mind. Still, it feels real. Rena whispered, and it shapes who you become. They sat in silence for a while. The wind passed gently through the garden, then Rena stood. I want to show you something. She led him through the garden, past tall trees and quiet fountains, to a wide stone circle in the ground. Around its edge stood pillars made of dark blue crystal. This is our place of echoes, she said. It holds the memory of Yora. Not just facts, feelings too. She touched a pillar, and it lit up. A soft voice filled the air, a story told in the Auroran language. The sound was slow and peaceful, like a memory spoken by the wind. Tom listened. Though he couldn't understand the words, it tells of a time we nearly vanished, Rena explained. Our minds were sharp, but we had lost feeling. We became too cold, so we changed. We chose calm over control. She looked at Tom. But now we wonder, did we lose something important? Tom stepped forward and touched another pillar. A light moved through it, but no sound came. He looked at Rena. Maybe our memories can help each other. She nodded. That is why you're here. Tom turned to face her. And that's why I'll keep answering your questions. Rena gave a small smile. Tomorrow, we speak of dreams and what humans hope for when they close their eyes. Tom smiled back. That might be the hardest one yet. As they walked back toward the Hall of Learning, the sun began to set, turning the sky into layers of gold and blue. Tom felt a quiet warmth inside. This was more than an exchange of knowledge. This was the beginning of something deeper. And far above them, two moons crossed in the sky. One pale, one deep silver, shining down onto beings from different worlds, walking side by side. The air was cool that morning, touched with the scent of blooming sky flowers that open only during the early hours. Tom stood near a round window in his quiet room, watching the twin moons slowly disappear behind the distant crystal hills. It had been a peaceful night, though his sleep had been filled with dreams. He remembered one of them clearly, a memory of Earth. He had been walking through a forest near his childhood home, hearing the wind move through the trees, feeling the earth beneath his feet. But in the dream, the trees had shimmered like those on Eora, and Rena had walked beside him, asking questions without words. When Rena arrived at the Hall of Learning later that morning, she carried a small glass sphere filled with silver mist. She placed it on the low table between them, and as it touched the surface, the mist inside swirled into shapes, stars, clouds, floating islands. This is called a mind light, Rena explained. It shows the thoughts of the one who holds it while they dream. Tom leaned closer. You record dreams. Not always, she said. Only the ones we choose to keep. Some dreams are private. Others hold meaning for all. Today, I want to understand what your people see when they close their eyes. Tom sat down across from her and thought for a moment. Our dreams are strange. Sometimes they repeat things we did that day. Sometimes they show things we fear. Sometimes they show things we wish for. Rena nodded slowly. We have dreams too, though they are softer, more calm. But I have read that humans sometimes dream of flight, of falling, of meeting others they miss. That's true, Tom said. I once dreamed I could fly through the sky with no ship. I could feel the wind on my face. It felt real. But when I woke up, I couldn't explain it. Rena touched the sphere again. The mist shifted into the shape of a bird, wings wide, floating high above the world. Why do your dreams matter so much? She asked. Because they remind us that we're more than what we do during the day, Tom replied. They show us hidden thoughts, feelings we don't say out loud. He paused, then added. Sometimes they help us make decisions. Other times they confuse us. But they always make us feel something. Rena looked curious. Have your people ever followed a dream and changed their life? Tom nodded. Yes, many times. Some people dream of becoming something, a builder, a healer, an explorer. Others dream of making peace with someone. Dreams can guide us, even when we're not sure why. She looked at him carefully. What did you dream last night? Tom was quiet. Then he said, I dreamed of home, but it was mixed with this world. The forest I grew up in looked like the Auroran Gardens, and you were there, asking questions like always. Rena gave a soft laugh. Then your dream was not far from truth. Tom smiled. No, it wasn't. Rena stood and gestured for Tom to follow her. They walked down a quiet stone path that curved through tall glowing trees. At the end of the path stood a wide open space filled with floating shapes, almost like balloons, but made of light and sound. This is the dream garden, Rena said. Each one of these holds the dream of a child, saved by their family, when the child grows older. They return here to see what they once dreamed. Tom stepped closer. One of the light shapes floated near him. It showed a small Auroran child, reaching for a star that danced just out of reach. Do they always remember? He asked. No, Rena replied. But the dream remembers them. Tom looked at her. That's beautiful. Rena walked slowly among the floating dreams. Our people have begun to dream of the stars again. Your arrival has stirred something in us, a hope we had hidden for too long. Tom looked around at the glowing shapes. Maybe that's what humans are good at, waking up old dreams. Rena turned to him. Tell me this. What do humans dream about when they're afraid? Tom answered honestly. We dream of losing things. Losing family, losing time. Sometimes we dream of being alone, or of something chasing us that we can't see. She nodded. We dream of silence that never ends. They stood in the dream garden for a long time. The soft lights drifted around them, each one holding a private world that had once lived only in someone's sleeping mind. Later, as the day warmed, they sat beneath a shade tree. Rena pulled out a small piece of paper, something rare on Eora. It had been given to her by a human scholar. On it were drawings of a child's dream, a flying fish, a glowing mountain, and a smiling face with stars for eyes. This came from a human child's dream, Rena said. I carry it with me to remind myself that your kind does not just build machines, you build stories. Tom looked at the paper. That's true. Even our dreams become books, songs, paintings. Rena carefully folded the drawing and placed it back in her satchel. Tomorrow, I will take you to the Hall of Voice. There, we do not ask questions. We only listen. Tom raised an eyebrow. To what? She smiled. To what cannot be said with words. As they returned to the Hall of Learning, the sky began to shift again. Pale blue turning soft orange. The light moved across the garden, like a quiet song. Tom felt a deep calm inside. He had come expecting a learning mission, something official and cold. Instead, he had been given moments like this, silent gardens, dream lights, and a friend who asked the kind of questions that stayed in the heart. And as the day faded, he wondered what he might dream tonight. The early sun on Eora touched the stone towers with soft gold light. A cool breeze passed through the wide walkways, moving the hanging lights gently as if the air itself was breathing. Tom walked beside Rena, both of them quiet as they followed a smooth path that curved through the garden hills. Today, she had promised to show him something special, the Hall of Voice, a place where questions stopped and only listening mattered. They reached a wide open arch carved into a hillside. The stones round the entrance shimmered with soft lines, shaped like waves. No guards stood by. No doors blocked the way. This is one of our oldest places, Rena said. It is where we bring the feelings that have no name. Tom looked around. You mean emotions, yes? She said. But more than that, sometimes what we feel cannot be spoken clearly. Here, we let the heart speak without words. They stepped inside. The floor was smooth and warm underfoot. The space opened into a large round chamber with no furniture, no machines, and no decorations. In the center was a small circle made of polished crystal. Light from above passed through it. Shining like water dots, several errands stood along the edges of the room. Their eyes were closed. Their hands rested calmly over their hearts. They were silent. But the room felt full, not with sound, but with presence. Rena spoke softly. Each person who enters brings a memory, a question, a feeling. They do not say it aloud. They simply listen. The hall listens too. Tom lowered his voice. It sounds like a sacred space. It is, she replied. We use no machines here, only the echoes of our hearts. She stepped into the center and closed her eyes. Her breath slowed. A soft hum began to rise, not from her mouth, but from the floor itself. Tom stepped closer and felt it, a low, steady vibration, almost like music that came from deep within the stone. What is that? He whispered. It is the voice of silence, she answered. Tom stood still. At first, he heard nothing but the quiet hum. But as he let go of his own thoughts, other sounds began to rise, soft notes, like gentle winds, distant water, a faint heartbeat. It felt like the room was remembering something, or many things. Rena opened her eyes and looked at him. Now, bring your memory. Tom placed one hand on his chest and let his thoughts drift. He remembered his father's voice from long ago, a night under the stars when he was a boy, a promise he had made to explore the universe. He remembered the fear before boarding the ship to Eora, and the wonder he felt when he first saw the twin moons. The hum around him deepened. A faint echo rose, shaped like the quiet call of a far-off bird. Rena stepped closer. The hall feels what you feel, not with judgment, only with care. Tom nodded slowly. It's comforting, like someone is listening, even if no words are spoken. That is the gift of the Hall of Voice, Rena said. They stayed there for a long time, listening not to others, but to themselves, to the echoes that usually stayed buried under work, noise, or duty. Later, they stepped outside. The breeze felt fresher, the light softer. Rena led Tom to a quiet bench under a glowing tree. I wanted you to feel this place before I asked my next question. Tom looked at her. What is it? She paused. I want to know what humans do when they are hurt inside, not by pain of the body, but pain of the spirit. Tom took a deep breath. Sometimes we talk to others. Sometimes we stay quiet. Some people write or paint or walk alone for hours. But many just carry it, not because they want to, but because they don't know how to let it go. Rena's eyes were soft. We call that silent weight. We feel it too. Tom looked up at the sky. Some people say time heals. Others say time only hides the hurt. And what do you say? Rena asked gently. Tom thought for a moment. I think time gives us space to grow around the hurt. It may never leave, but we learn to live beside it. Rena nodded slowly. That is wisdom. She opened her satchel and pulled out a small silver stone. This is a gift. It holds one silent voice from our people. If you press it to your chest when you feel lost, it will remind you that someone once heard your silence. Tom took the stone carefully. It was warm. Thank you. I'll keep it with me. They sat in peace for a while, watching the crystal. Trees shift in color as the sun moved. A few Iraran children walked nearby, laughing softly. Their voices echoed lightly, like wind chimes. Rena finally said, I see more clearly now. Your body carries great strength, but your true power is in how your heart stays open, even when it is heavy. Tom looked at her. I think it's the same for you. She smiled. Maybe that is why we met. As the light faded into the calm of evening, Tom felt changed, not because he had answered a new question, but because he had listened to a place, to a friend, and to himself. And for the first time in many days, he didn't feel like a visitor anymore. He felt like he belonged. The stars over Eora glowed like slow-moving lanterns. Tom stood on a high balcony that looked over the quiet city. Below, the lights of the crystal towers shimmered like reflections on water. The air was calm, and the sky was clear. Somewhere, deep in the garden, the night birds sang gently. He held the silver memory stone Rena had given him. It rested in his palm like a warm pebble. He pressed it to his chest and closed his eyes. There was no voice, no music, but still, he felt something. Inside him settled. Behind him, soft steps touched the stone floor. Rena arrived, her robe moving like mist in the night air. She stood beside him and looked at the stars. You didn't join the evening gathering, she said. Tom nodded. I just wanted some time to think. About home. He shook his head. About here. About you. About the way things feel different. Now, Rena looked at him quietly. Tell me. Tom hesitated, but then said, when I came here, I thought I'd be teaching, showing humans are clever, strong. But now, I feel like I've been learning more than I expected. That is the way of deep exchange, Rena said. Both sides grow, if they are open. Tom turned to her. At first, you asked about the body, muscles, lungs, hands. But now, your questions are not about the outside anymore. They're about what lives inside. Rena looked at him. Because what is inside you is harder to understand. But it is also more important. Tom gave a small laugh. We humans spend most of our lives trying to understand ourselves too. Our thoughts, our feelings, why we care, why we hurt. Rena looked down at her hands. I have something to ask. It is not about science, not about learning. It is about what I feel. May I ask it? Tom met her gaze. Yes, always. She was silent for a long time before she spoke. What is the word for the warmth that grows when I see you arrive? The quiet joy when you speak, the stillness that comes when you listen. Tom's chest felt tight. He knew the answer, but he also knew this moment was delicate. That word is love. He said softly, it's the strongest feeling we know. It grows from trust, from care, from time spent together. Rena's voice was quiet. We do not use that word often on Eora. Our kind believes love must rise slowly, like a flower that grows through stone. Tom stepped closer. Then maybe your flower has started to grow. She looked up at him. Does this change our journey? He thought for a moment. No, it deepens it. If what we're building is more than knowledge, then it only makes it stronger. Rena nodded. Then I have one more question. He smiled. Go ahead. What does love feel like in the body? Tom looked toward the stars. It feels like lightness in the chest, like your heart has a quiet fire in it, like you want to protect someone, to understand them, to stay close, even when they don't say a word. Their presence feels like home. Rena was silent. Then she reached out and took his hand in both of hers. This is new for us, she said. But I want to walk forward, not with answers, but with you. Tom held her hand gently. Then let's walk. They stayed on the balcony as the stars moved overhead. Slow and peaceful. The silence between them was full, not empty. There were no more questions tonight. No more lessons. Only the quiet truth that to hearts from two very different worlds had begun to understand each other. The next morning, the city awoke to light and calm. Tom and Rena walked through the main path of the Hall of Learning. Other errands watched them pass, some with quiet smiles, others with wide eyes. A whisper passed through the halls, not of worry, not of surprise, but of change. At the center of the garden, a group of young errands waited with blank scrolls and ink stones. They want to draw your form. Rena explained, to study not just your structure, but your presence. Tom laughed. I hope they don't make me look too strange. You are not strange, Rena said. You are real. He sat with the young students as they drew his face, his hands, his posture. One asked about scars on his arm. Another asked why his fingers were always moving. He explained each part with patience, and they listened with care. Later, Rena showed him a new section of the hall. It had been empty before, but now it was filled with sketches, notes, and quiet recordings. A simple sign had been placed above the entrance, the room of human understanding. Tom stepped inside and looked around. There were pictures of the earth, drawings of human hearts and lungs, and stories written in Auroran script about the talks they had shared. He turned to her. You made a space for my people, for both of us, she said. Your body helped USC, but your heart helped us feel. Tom placed one of his hands over hers. Then let this room stay open for all who come after us. Rena nodded. It will. As the day turned to dusk and the sky turned soft again, Tom looked at the stars once more. They were distant, silent, and full of wonder. But he no longer felt far from home, because now he knew home was not only a place, it could be a bond, a hand, a word, a look. It could be someone who asked questions and someone who answered. With honesty, and sometimes that was enough to change a world. The winds of Eora blew softly through the high gardens. Crystals on the tall trees rang like soft bells as the light moved through them. It had been many days since Tom arrived on the planet, but now it felt like time had changed. What had started as a mission of study had grown into something much more, a connection between hearts. Not just minds. Tom stood near the central garden fountain, watching the water rise and fall in slow patterns. The quiet sound reminded him of rivers back on Earth. Round him, the Hall of Learning was alive with soft voices. Errands were sharing stories, drawings, and questions with a new calmness. No longer afraid of human difference, Rena walked up. Beside him, her steps were quiet, but her presence was strong. She stood with her hands folded gently in front of her, her silver blue robe catching the sunlight. Tomorrow, the circle of leaders will gather, she said. They want to speak with us, not just to hear facts, but to understand what this journey has become. Tom nodded. Are they ready to hear the truth? They must be, Rena said. Because the truth is not only in the answers we gave, it is in what changed between us. They walked together through the garden. Children played among the crystal flowers. Birds flew low across the water pools, their wings shining. All around, the world looked peaceful, yet full of quiet motion, like a song that never ended. As they passed the room of human understanding, Tom stopped. New drawings had been placed on the wall, scenes of him teaching, of Rena listening, of both of them laughing near the dream lights. Every day, they add more, Rena said. Soon this room will not just be about you. It will be about us, about what we became together. Tom turned to her. Do you ever think this was supposed to happen? Rena looked up at the sky. Some things are not planned. They bloom on their own. They reached a small hill that overlooked the city. From here, they could see the white paths, the green gardens, and the tall silver towers that reached toward the sky. The twin moons were already rising again, one behind the other, like they were watching from above. Tom sat on the soft grass and looked out across the world. Rena sat beside him. I think I understand now, Tom said. When you first asked about the human body, I thought you were curious about form, shape, movement. But it wasn't just that. You were looking for something deeper. Rena nodded. Yes. I wanted to know what holds your spirit, what gives your strength meaning, what carries your love. And now, Tom asked, now I see, she said softly. The human body holds not just muscles or blood. It holds memory, courage, and care. It holds fire, but also gentleness, and I have come to care for that balance. Tom looked at her. And I've come to care for you. Rena's eyes shone with light. Then we are no longer teacher and learner. We are something new. They sat in silence. The kind of silence that feels warm and full. Tom reached for her hand, and she took his without hesitation. The wind wrapped around them like a soft ribbon, and the moons climbed higher. Later, as night covered the land, Tom walked alone to the top of the Hall of Learning. From there, the stars looked close, almost near enough to touch. He thought of Earth, of his people, and of the ones who would one day come to Eora, not with loud steps, but with open hearts. He knew his time on the planet might come to an end soon. The mission would complete, reports would be written, and ships would return. But something inside him had changed forever. This was no longer just about learning. It was about connection, about two people from two different stars choosing to walk together. The next morning, Tom and Rena stood before the circle of elders. The tall chamber was filled with quiet figures, each one a voice of wisdom among their people. Light from above fell gently onto the center of the floor, where Tom and Rena stood hand in hand. An elder named Veros spoke first. We welcomed a human. We expected knowledge. What we see now is something deeper. What have you both brought us? Rena answered. We brought questions, and we found something greater, understanding, care, and a bond that was not expected but now cannot be ignored. Tom added, your people asked about my body, but I gave you my story. You gave me your trust. And together, we built something better than answers. The elders were quiet for a long time. Then Vero spoke again. Then let this learning be written in both hearts and history from this day. The Hall of Learning will not be a place of quiet study alone. It will be a place of connection. Soft bells rang through the chamber. A sign of agreement. Tom looked at Rena. She smiled. Outside, the skies were clear. The garden was blooming again. The wind carried the scent of a new season. Later that day, Tom sat beside Rena in the dream garden. The lights floated gently, filled with the dreams of young minds. "What will you do if Earth calls you back?" she asked. Tom looked at the dream lights. "I will return, but not alone. I will return with your voice, your stories, your light, and I will come back again." Rena reached for the silver memory stone he still wore around his neck. "Then leave a part of yourself here," she said, "so we never forget." He placed the stone in her hand. "You already carry the most important part," he said. As the sun set on Eora and the stars began to rise again, two lives, once strangers, once distant, now stood side by side. Their story was not written in stone or machine, but in quiet moments, kind questions. In the joining of two hearts, a new path had opened between the stars, and they would walk it together.